Yes, this is what it looked like. Everything's fine. So we are gonna go into nostalgic territory with this crossover that is not about similarity, but about family relationships. From westerns to gritty underbelly of society and having one goal. Take down the bad guys. This is the Lone Ranger teaming up with his great nephew, the Green Hornet. So, I know everyone should know who they are, but I like to do this just to recap some people on who they are. First, let's start with the Lone Ranger. So, his name is John Reed, who is a masked vigilante and former Texas Ranger during the era of the Wild West. He teams up with his partner and Native American friend, Tonto, to fight the outlaws of the Wild West and bring peace to the West. Although in some cases he's considered an outlaw himself, due to not a lot of people really knowing him because, not a lot of fast travel with news back in that. I'll put that out for the day. And then jump the decades a little and meet the Green Hornet, who is considered a criminal in the public eye. His real name is Britt Reed, who in normal life is the owner and publisher of a newspaper company, Daily Sentinel, not Daily Planet. But in the dead of night, he masks up as the Green Hornet, teaming up with his partner and valet, Kato. And I'm just gonna say this to not get started with, Kato's nationality. It's a mess. Why? Because he keeps flopping in his origin story from Chinese, Japanese, and Korean. I know Korean was used because of the 1930s serials. So you get the point. But I'll just say he's Japanese because that seems to be the case in the comic here. You could probably call Green Hornet as a sort of Persona 5 phantom thief. A criminal in the public eye, but not in the underbelly. Which is how Green Hornet does his business, to take down the real crooks, using false security on his enemies, while in the day, no one knows he is the Green Hornet, except for some trustworthy people. And he's the great nephew of the Lone Ranger. Lone Ranger Green Hornet, Champions of Justice, is a 2017 comic and graphic novel published by Dynamite. Michael E. Uslan writes the comic, and the art is by Giovanni Timpano. The comic crossovers the Lone Ranger and Green Hornet in the 1930s. The Lone Ranger is an old guy now, and the story starts in 1936, when Britt's father dies, which I think was a heart attack in front of John. In 1938, John, Britt, and Kato are both accompanied by Elliot Ness. Yes, that Ness. There's gonna be a lot of famous people in this comic, as he asks them to help him hunt down the Cavendish gang, which also back in the West ambushed John and killed the Rangers and his brother. His mask being made out of his brother's vest to become the Lone Ranger. In this comic, John wants Britt to become the next Lone Ranger and cut his mask out of the vest, just like he did in the day. But Britt has a different idea in mind of following his great uncle's footsteps. Instead of becoming the Lone Ranger, he becomes the Green Hornet. But of course, he cut his mask out of the vest, so that's good. But John, he was not very happy, and even if Britt's reasons with him on his idea, and that he chose Hornet because John always says, makes me mad as a hornet, and that he calls his car Black Beauty, like the horse named Silver. But he's able to get over it. Yeah. by getting Jesse Owens to be the Black Lone Ranger, yes! For only 2 pages, because people could recognize him, even the bad guys, and one of them wanted an autograph to give to his wife. Fuck you, 1930s America. Also, Tonto is in the comic too, but, one moment. He dies. And also John at the end. And there's your spoiler. So, what are my thoughts on the Lone Ranger Green Hornet? Well, I did like it. The story was good and the art was fantastic. Although there were some parts of the story that didn't make sense to me. It felt a bit rushed in the storytelling, a bit, and sometimes it flopped it from flashbacks in present time in the 1930s. So it sort of made it confusing. Like how I brought some famous people, that's what I like about it, like from the Old West. You got Bat Madison, Teddy Roosevelt, Buffalo Bill, Annie Oakley, etc. So that was good seeing them together. I love the art, and there was one panel with Green Hornet is riding Silver, while Lone Ranger drives Black Beauty. But I think if this was happening in real life and that everyone saw that, jaws would have been dropped. And although I should have suspected that John and Tonto would die at the end of the comic, it was a surprise and shock to me. Like, they were old and probably in their 80s or something like that. I don't know, they didn't specifically say any ages, but it was a good comic crossover. Do I recommend you read Lone Ranger Green Hornet? Y'all say yes. It's a good comic for nostalgia. You can feel it just when you open the comic, especially at the beginning, where it starts with both classic character introductions. That was so good. A fiery horse with the speed of light, a cloud of dust, and a hardy Hi-Yo Silver, with his faithful Indian companion Tonto, the daring and resourceful masked rider of the plains. Leo, the fight for the law and order in the rest. Nowhere in the pages of history can one find a great champion of justice. Except Zoro. But, with us now, to those drilling days of yesteryear, from out of the past, come to the thundering hoofbeats of the great horse Silver. The Lone Ranger rides again! Sorry, I couldn't help myself, but I should make it fair by saying this! He hunts the biggest of all game, public enemies that even G-Man can't reach, the Green Hornet, with his faithful valet Kato, Britt Reed, daring young publisher, matches wits with the underworld, risking his life that criminals and racketeers within the law feel its weight by the sting of the Green Hornet. But even me saying that, you can see the similarities these two have for each other, even being related, and definitely recommend it to see this connection and link some come back together. So in that way, that should be. And that is my review on Lone Ranger Green Hornet comic. If you have read it, tell me your thoughts. Anyhow, this is Silver-chan signing out with a hi-ho, hee-ho, bye. Yes, this is what I look like. Yes, this is what I look like. Cat. Yes, this is what I look like. God damn it, fucking cat!